Hi everyone, welcome back to Ibrox to discuss Rangers 1, Motherwell 2. That was a shocked and stunned Ibrox. Motherwell's first, I think, top flight league victory at Ibrox, Stuart Kettlewell said, since the 1990s. Rangers fell ahead early on, inside 10 minutes to a Theo Bair strike. I thought Theo Bair gave the Rangers defence issues all day, really, Chris. John Souttar's mistake for the first one, Connor Goldson's mistake leading up to the second goal. Thought Rangers were flat from the start, paid the price for that. Went in 1-0 down at the break. Ross McCausland was forced off for a heavy tackle that Philippe Clement was pretty unhappy with. Rangers did find a way back into the game through a James Tavernier penalty, but again fell into a bit of a lull. And Motherwell, who looked quite a threat in transition all day, scored with Carey at the back post following a corner, second phase of a corner. Rangers had chances. They had a lot of chances. They had a lot of chances in injury time alone, but they fall to their second defeat under Philippe Clement and their first defeat under him here at Ibrox. Asked him after in the press conference, Chris, that this bump in the road, this hitting the wall, if it was more in the bump in the road today, was going to happen. It won't make it any easier for people that it's happened just now, obviously, after the emphatic win over Hearts, the character building win over Kilmarnock. I mean, no one saw that coming today, did they?
No, not at all. I think we all assumed, having taken care of business so impressively against Hearts last weekend, and then side to them down at Rugby Park in midweek, I think people almost just assumed this was not quite a turn up and win job, but I think they assumed that Rangers would continue their form, that they would get the points on the board. That then puts all the focus on Celtic at Tynecastle tomorrow. We're now watching events elsewhere with a very different perspective, because nobody saw that coming. I think once the game started, you sometimes just get a feel early on how things are going to unfold. Rangers just never really looked at it when it is crisp as we've seen them. But it's strange because the manager said post-match, chance creation was not the issue today. On another day, Rangers go and score 3, 4, 5 goals, given the chances, the saves that Liam Kelly makes. There's ones cleared off the line. There's ones that are just by the post. It was just one of those days. Yeah. And if it happened again, I think the manager mentioned that he's been here 5 months. 5 months tomorrow, I think he said. And if this type of result had happened in Game 6, you would say, well, they're still building, they're still getting used to the manager. It's because it's been as impressive and they've managed to do as well in the title race that it hurts a bit more that it's a bigger result. If it had happened in Game 6, the points would still have been the same. Yeah. But it's just the situation that Rangers have got themselves in. It's changed everything. It's heightened emotions. It's heightened the pressure on them, and it's not. It's a very, very bad day. But I think it was always going to come. Rangers were not as impressive as they have been. It would take something extraordinary to go and win every game between now and the end of the season. The manager's almost been priming us for this, saying like it's going to this type of result can happen. It probably will happen. Now that it has, it's all about the reaction. As you asked them post match, it's all about the reaction now for Rangers. If they react in the right way, it can be put down to a blip and they can move on. If it lingers and it feeds into Thursday night, or more importantly into the Hibs game and then the D game, then there's bigger issues at play, and there are the ramifications of it will be more severe than just one result.
Yeah, I think simultaneously you can say today that Rangers weren't great, and I don't think while they still created enough chances to win. I think that's true, and maybe I thought they looked a bit tired today, and that's expected. We'll come on to injuries. Obviously, the news about Oscar Cortez is a real blow in a season. Just it seems. Oh, it's been a few seasons now, absolutely littered with injuries. Of course, we're going to go into more detail on Monday in Monday morning's podcast. This is kind of just a briefer look back at the game. So, simultaneously, Rangers were, I think, poor in elements, especially at the back. I thought Theo Bair dominated that Rangers defence today. Clement said he wouldn't point fingers at the centre-backs who have been really good over the course, but they had a bad day today. So you can say that while still saying that Rangers had enough opportunities to win. And you can say, Chris, that, okay, this was going to happen at some stage, while still saying that is a massive missed opportunity. And you're right, those points were probably always going to come up at some stage. They're going to be lost at some stage, although it didn't feel like that when Rangers beat Kilmarnock at Rugby Park in midweek. And Clement, I'll read what Clement said, because I asked him, you've said at points the team will hit the wall is this that moment? He said, yes, it's interesting now. I didn't expect to have this moment after 5 months. I thought it would be much earlier. Now I'll get to know my team even better. I know them really well, but now I'm going to see who's going to be the guys to stand up after a disappointment. I don't doubt it too much. They are very disappointed. A lot of heads are down. I'm disappointed to not get the 3 points, but you need to cope with it. Take the right lessons and learn from it. That is our ambition. Now, I mean, the mood in Ibrox was more one of, I was a bit more stunned than angry at points, I thought, Chris. But at full time, a fair amount of the supporters, I thought, still stayed and showed their appreciation. It's not as if all the goodwill and all the good work is undone. But do you agree with what I'm saying in that? Yes, okay, those points, it was unrealistic. If you said when Clement came in after 9 games, he's only going to have lost 2, you'd have thought, well, he's done a pretty good job, and he's done a very good job up until now. But simultaneously, of course, it feels like a missed opportunity today, because you had the opportunity to go 5 ahead. You were in a home game, and you've been dominant at home, and through one reason or another, although Rangers had the opportunities to win that and probably do in another day. I don't know what their chance creation was. We'll get the stats bomb data, but they created about 1.5 expected goals against Hearts and scored 5 goals last week. And this week, I think it was around 2 expected goals in open play, and their finishing was at the opposite scale. But it still is a massive missed opportunity, isn't it, in the context of the title race?
It is, because when you get to this stage, 10 games to go, every game, every goal, every point just carries such huge ramifications. I know we've spoken on the show in the last couple of weeks about the squad having to get used to being in a title race, because a number of them haven't been, and the ones that have been won 55 at absolute canter. We've spoken about the fans getting used to the highs and lows of a title race again, because again, it's just been so long since Rangers have really been involved in one where they believe that they could win. People are going into these games. That's why Wednesday and last weekend, that's why they carried as much emotion, as much excitement, because people now believe that the Rangers can go in and win the title. So it comes as a huge shock. It comes as a huge disappointment. As I said earlier on, it's now all about the reaction for Rangers. If it lingers and it ultimately costs them the title, people will point to this one as being the one that it started to unravel. If they react in the right way, it's a huge game on Thursday night. If they can react in the right way, put in a performance, somehow get a result, Ibrox is then bouncing for the return. You've got a big Scottish Cup game back at Hibs when you come back from Lisbon. There's still so much for Rangers to look forward to, but they can only look forward to it if this is guaranteed to be a blip. Now, the manager says he will learn a lot about these players. The Rangers fans will learn a lot about these players, and will learn a lot about the manager as well.
Yeah, okay, right. We've done the context. As I say, Derek and I will go into more detail. I know we're not reading out loads of comments, but I'm conscious that we've not got loads of time at the moment, and we will go through. We'll have probably an extended show. I'm sure if Derek has his way on Monday to speak through it. Want to talk firstly on Oscar Cortez. He will be out for an extended period of time. You'd imagine it's a season-ending injury. Rangers have to obviously discuss with Lons what happens, because he is an on-loan player. Surgery is a potential. Clement didn't confirm whether it was something to do with the pitch. He said it was a unique injury for the way it happened, the way he fell. Confirmed it was a muscle injury in yesterday's press conference. Firstly, that's a blow, a big blow, because I think he started really well. The second blow was obviously Ross McCausland being forced off. Now, Clement was unhappy with the challenge. He didn't go so far as to say that it should have been a red card. He said when he was asked about that in a press conference, he's not a referee, and he was conscious that he didn't want to be trapped in saying it should have been a red card. But what he did say was earlier on, when I asked him how Ross McCausland was, if I just get the answer up, he said Ross is bad because he was kicked off the pitch. There was no foul, no yellow card, no red card. When I see how we've got red cards in the last few months and I see this action, I don't understand it, to be honest. There's too much intensity. When you have a player off in the first half because he can't walk anymore after contact, you need to realise something bad happened there. I think what he will be referencing there is Dujon Sterling being sent off, Jose Cifuentes. There's one other at the top of that's at the top of my head I can't think of. What will drive managers mad is inconsistency in refereeing, and whether people think that was a red card or not. Clement was clearly very unhappy that he felt it was a forceful challenge that has injured another one of his players, which has again been a consistent theme since he came to the club, hasn't it?
The injuries are starting to mount up again, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Us having lost Todd Cantwell a couple of weeks ago, the manager was asked about Rabbi Matondo post-match. He said, look, he's working his way back, but he's not going to be in the squad for Thursday. It does leave Rangers decidedly short in the wide areas. it's not the squad as we know, is not blessed with lots of wide, pacey, attacking direct players anyway, because that's how it was assembled in the summer. Cortez addressed some of that during the January windows, come in, been really, really impressive. And if Seema had been available, if the manager could say, look, Abda won't be back on Thursday, but you can expect to see him at Easter Road, it maybe takes some of the disappointment out of it. But he's also addressed him in the last couple of pressers as well. It's not as if he's bursting. He's also bursting a gut to get back, but he's not that close. So
he's not a game or two away, is he?
No, it's
Rabi Matondo is back in individual training, so that is one wide player. But I mean, I think it looked like there was moments in the second half, Chris, where you remember back to Rangers' late comeback against Hearts, which is maybe where Clement expected to hit the wall, and a lot of that second half was spent him telling his team to stay out wide. He had Seema on the left, who's obviously not a touchline. He's a wide forward, more he wants to get into the box. And he had Campbell on the right as well, who wanted to move inside. And he spent a lot of that half, I remember, telling his team to get wider. And it was the same today. Rangers looked like a team without natural width because they didn't have natural width. He doesn't want his fullbacks high and wide. We know that. He wants his wingers to be wide, but he was playing, Dujon Sterling's done fantastically. He struggled at points in the right wing today, created a couple of decent opportunities. Fabio Silva wins the penalty, should do better with one of a really good opportunity when he comes off the bench. But again, he's not someone who wants to receive the ball wide and attack his man from deep. He created one brilliant chance with Ridvan Yilmaz kind of running behind on the left and a nice back heel to get Yilmaz on the overlap. It looked like a team without natural width because it was a team without natural width, and that made it more difficult. And that probably didn't help Rangers' tempo issues. But I think we should also give Motherwell a lot of credit because Theo Bayer really did dominate that defence, as I say. And they were the ones who started the game at their tempo. And then when the game went 1-1, they did the same. I think they got a bit fortunate with a few opportunities. I think there's a lot going on up that goal. The Copeland Road stand at the end, one cleared off the line, I think, from Silva. But it looked like a team without natural width. And that's because it was, really.
Said to one of the guys just after full time whistle on the gantry, fair play to Motherwell for their approach. Very, very few teams come to Ibrox and are that brave on the ball, are that bold with a plan. Now, it's one thing a manager having a plan. You then need the players to go and carry it out. As you say, Bayer gave Goldson and Suter a really, really hard game, probably the hardest or one of the hardest they've had outside an Old Firm over the course of the Premiership campaign. Motherwell scored 2. They could have scored more goals as well. It's not as if to say it was some kind of smash and grab from Motherwell and they've scored.
Well, they hit the crossbar at 1-0, didn't they?
You can't say the Motherwell took their only 2 chances. Thought there were periods of the second half it was a bit basketball-like. It was at 10, Motherwell catching Rangers on the counter and being really good in the transition phases. Rangers obviously pushing forward and trying to throw bodies forward and throw men forward to try and get back into it. It was just one of those games where everything went right for Motherwell. Fair play. They had to ride their luck at times, but if you're a side like that and you're in that position in the league and you come to Ibrox, you're going to need a slice of luck. You're going to need your goalkeeper to make a couple of saves. You're going to need guys to be throwing their bodies in front of the shots and things to be cleared off the line, and for it just not quite to click for Rangers. Ultimately, it didn't quite click. On another day, the chances that Rangers had, they win the game. But it was just one of those days. That doesn't make it any less frustrating or disappointment. It doesn't change the title race. But I think it was just one of those ones for Rangers and for Motherwell. I think you have to give a lot of credit to Stuart Getterwell and his side for the way they came and they acquitted themselves. And I think they more than merited. They will feel they more than merited the win. If Rangers had snatched a draw or managed to come back and win it, it'd also been a huge result for us, but it's unfortunately wasn't to be the case.
It was one of those days in front of goal combined with one of those days in defence, I think is maybe the best way to summarise the game, whereas Rangers, as of late, under Philippe Clement, up until the last week, I think their defences looked really good, maybe not so much Kilmarnock, definitely not today. Whether that's a tiredness issue, whether they were forcing the issue too much, Clement said the players are pushing for it, but maybe today they pushed too much and lost in moments where they had to be decisive. That's a learning point for us. Rangers conceded what felt like a lot of counter-attacks today, and that's not been the case too much under Clement. So if you put all those things together, okay, if you have one of those days, but then you don't concede those 2 goals and the excellent opportunity where Motherwell hit the bar, you get a penalty, you keep it tight, as they have done in recent weeks, and you get away with the 3 points. Rangers didn't today. I think freshness does come into it because I thought a lot of players looked a bit tired today. Now, that might just be the placebo effect of the fact that they've lost from our point watching on, but it is a thin squad. As we conclude, I guess, Chris, for me, the best way to summarise it is Rangers had an off day in front of goal, but they also had an off day at the back. I think that there was such an emotional high of winning against Kilmarnock that this game, while I'm sure they'd have treated it the same as every other game, it's only natural to think that this will not be as difficult a game as the last couple. And as it materialised, it was even more difficult. Celtic obviously go to Hearts tomorrow. If they go and win, then the momentum really swings back to them. But from Rangers' point of view, I guess they've got 9 games to go. It's still within their hands from the point of view that they play Celtic twice. They now might become the chasers again. I guess it's a title race. That's what's going to happen. Any closing thoughts? Because I feel like I'm going round in circles here, but you know what I'm trying to say.
No, I think it is just a title race. It's not when you have two teams who are this close. All the momentum had been with Rangers. As you say, if Celtic go to Tynecastle tomorrow and win, it then swings it back in their favour. But you've then got, I said, Old Firm game coming up at Ibrox in a couple of weeks. Still have to go to Parkhead again. There's still so many more twists and turns to come. There's a lot more football to be played. There's a lot of talking to be done. There's a lot of even more talking to be done on the pitch. So as bad as today is, hopefully it's not something that we're sitting here in a couple of weeks thinking, no, that was the beginning of the end and the start of the downturn. Rangers will have better days, and if they have more better days than bad ones, they're still very much in this title race.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way of summing it up. That we'll either look back on this as, okay, that's where the title race didn't sustain itself, or Rangers can't afford to, for example, lose again at home if they're going to win the title. They've not really slipped up under Clement so far. This was a hugely disappointing day for them as they fell to defeat at home to Motherwell, a result that few people saw coming. We'll continue to pick the bones out of it on the Rangers review, if you can bear it, over the next few days before Rangers go into Europa League action. Obviously play 2 games against Benfica and a Scottish Cup game before they even play in the league. I think I'm right in saying a week on Sunday, 2 weeks tomorrow against Dundee. Thank you to everyone who has joined us to talk through a really disappointing day for Rangers at Ibrox today. Myself and Derek will be back on Monday morning to look back at the game in more detail. Join us then if you can bear it. Chris will be off to Portugal. We'll have loads of coverage leading up to the game against Benfica on Thursday. But until then, thanks for joining us. Bye for now.